How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, MuniciPals? This is Big C and Ashton. We're talking Pasatiempo today. We're both excited. It was a big, solid kick in the balls, but I enjoyed it every second of the way. I don't know if that's a good analogy. I think maybe I should be like, it was, I don't know what to say, but none of us played well, and I would blame it heavily on the track more than our actual playing ability, because if anybody's played Pasatiempo, it is a son of a bitch. But one of the most gorgeous courses I think I've ever played. It is one of the most diabolical courses I've ever played. Pristine courses I've ever played. It's remarkable. It is absolutely remarkable. It is nothing what I remember, to be honest, when I played it every year in high school. But let's get Ashton in here. That's the way I describe it. It was insane. What did you think driving up? The lane?
I want to take it back real quick. I think we should give a little context. So, I mean, this is obviously a place for me. When I decided to move back to San Francisco, kind of middle of 2019, that's when I was falling back in love with golf. I wasn't playing a bunch, but that's actually when I found No Laying Up. I started to be consuming a lot of golf content. And I know that's about the time No Laying Up put out the Tour of Sauce California. And it just felt very serendipitous because getting to see them play golf in California made me feel excited about moving back and being able to, there was a lot of like, wow, like I'm gonna be able to play golf in California all the time. And what really stuck out to me was the Pasatiempo episode. And Neil said, I think he said he played there like 8 or 9 times. And he said, every time I play here, it punches me really hard in the face and it knocks me out. And I just can't wait to get back out there. And I think that really set the tone. And going back real quick to what we talked about, why I love Bandon so much, as I said, walking off each hole and be like, man, if I had just known that, I would have played it differently. That's how I felt at Pasa, because I shot 85, but I shot 85 with 7 doubles. I made, I think, 3 birdies. I almost made an eagle on number 9. I played really well, but there was a lot of situations at Pasatiempo where I just wasn't, we didn't have a caddy. You had played there, but the routing, I think the routing was the same, but you were a bit rusty. Jack had never played there. And so it's a course which I don't think it really matters how well you play. You're going to enjoy it. It's pristine. And if you know anything about MacKenzie, you just can feel it everywhere. And it's so cool because a lot of what we've had in the past is when we go play I use gigantic air quotes here, MacKenzie tracks. We're kind of walk by a bunker. It's like, oh yeah, Chris, can you see the MacKenzie bunkering there? And you're like,
you can kind of see the fingers.
Yeah, you're kind of just like hoping for it, We're like, at Pasatiempo, the whole thing is clearly MacKenzie, and after the restoration, it really feels that way. So it was really special for me to finally get there, and it just felt like, even though we were in the middle already of a golf heater, it just felt like a perfect way for the MuniciPals to, we would have loved to play with the RGC guys the day before, but, Chris was moving. I had a work project, but to get to have our own little MuniciPals, just the 3 of us. I mean, 'cause I think that's the last time you played with Jack, right? I mean, there's something just felt really fitting about really being at like, potentially, like, especially from
Jack completely bailed on Presidio, so that's on him not to play with me twice before I left. But no, I'm just kidding, Jack.
But I think this, better than me, Chris. I mean, if we're going to say remove private golf, you could probably say the Pasatiempo might be the best gym in California. So to be able to play, within a puncher's weight,
I can't say it's a gem. So I think gem in golf is overused a little bit.
I say it too much because of you.
Yeah, and I probably overuse it, and I'm probably one of those
what does
people.
gem mean then?
So in my opinion, a gem is more something that isn't easy to find. And I know some people might say that, well, that's a hidden gem. No, a hidden gem is like something off the beaten track. Nobody goes to it. To be honest, if I'm going to explain what a hidden gem is, it's going to be Coos Golf Club. Because if I say Coos Golf Club, 90% of the people that I know golf very well, they're probably not going to know where it is. And that's why I'm so glad we were able to showcase it, because that place shouldn't be a hidden gem. It should just be a gem. It should just be a course that's a little off the beaten track, but it is just solid all around. I would say Pasatiempo is a platinum golf course. Like,
Yeah.
it's well known across the world. It's on every top 10, top 100 list. It's beyond a gem.
Well, then I guess
it's its own entity.
to phrase it properly, to have the three of us, the MuniciPals boys, play potentially the best publicly accessible golf course in California
Absolutely
was really special. But that's actually helpful. We're doing this live, but to better categorize gem versus hidden gem. But no, I mean, I think just to play arguably the best course in California together, we paid an arm and a leg, but you know what? It was a great, there's nobody in the world I'd rather have experienced that with than you two. And I think we've talked about this in other courses, but it was one of those days where I know I kept doing it. I probably felt like, like I was being your dad, but you're on the fourth hole. I'm like, guys, look where we are. Like, you really had to have a lot of like pinching yourself, because you're just, you go from experiencing no Alistair MacKenzie to just, you look left, you look right, look on the green, you look at the bunkering, and it's all MacKenzie. And it was just really, really special. So just wanted to give some context into why we decided to do it. Then it wasn't by accident.
And I'm sorry for the lack of content on Instagram when we were playing Pasta. It's one of those courses where I couldn't take my phone out of my pocket. I couldn't whip out a camera and actually take pictures, because I mean, we got some. There were times where we all got some pictures in there, but
yeah,
I was so enthralled.
You wanted to be present.
Yes, I wanted to be present. I wanted to be there. I wanted to experience it and breathe it in and take my time to really, feel the course, because it's not, for the price point and where it's located and a lot of, different reasons, it's not a course I'm going to go play a lot. I might play it another couple times in my lifetime. I doubt I'll ever, play it anytime soon, to be honest. So when you go out to those courses, it's something that you really, really want to make sure that you're experiencing. So don't take a bunch of pictures to reminisce when you leave, because when you leave, you're going to go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah. Well, I didn't forget about anything, because we literally made sure, like you said, we stopped and made sure that we were really taking it in. We savored it. It was an incredible day. I mean, I was dealing with a bunch of stress with the move, and it was exactly what I needed, because it was the perfect break to be able to focus on what I needed to do before the end of it.
So Chris, before we talk about the day and kind of some of our thoughts, what I would love to hear about, that I haven't intentionally asked you because I wanted to hear about it here. I know it's been a minute since you've played there, but what were the biggest differences you saw in your previous time playing it in high school and now? Like, giving some people some context would be really helpful.
So to simplify it, trees. What I remember playing it in high school is there were a lot more overhanging branches. There were a lot more trees in play. It seems like they thinned it out. And again, guys, I haven't played this course in over 10 years. I was fortunate enough in high school to do fundraising tournaments out there, and I was able to play it 3 times in high school. But after that, you you're in your 20s. There's no freaking way I was going to be dropping nearly $300+ to go out and play by myself. So, outside of that, this was the first experience I've had outside of that. So what I remember is it really, the layout hasn't changed. They might have sharpened up the bunkers a bit from when I was out there. They've really, what I think I've experienced that was different is they had a nice curtain around the entire greens, where it seemed like when the renovation happened, they decided to not leave a skirt or a curtain around the outside. And in all the greenside bunkers, it just basically flows right into the bunker. So if you hit your ball, or if you putt your ball long and it flows, it's going to go right. There's nothing on the outside that's going to stop it at all. So I think that's what I noticed a lot more. And I think that's what changed over the years when Alistair designed it. I think that's exactly what he meant to have designed, where over the years they made it be a little bit more of what the norm was through maybe the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on. And that was, every course was manicured, had these beautiful multi-layered, outer perimeters of all the greens. And I think that was just the norm of what people were doing and how they were keeping courses, where when they had the renovation come through, like, that's not how it was supposed to design and work. So that they brought that back from what I remember. And then again, just the trees, you can obviously tell they've trimmed back and maybe taken out some, where it's a little bit wider. It's a little bit more wide open, especially on the front nine. The front, like, I remember the first hole being way more devastating if you missed it right, where now if you look at the front hole, there's barely any trees out there. There's a little grouping, in between the two holes there. But other than that, it's not anything really that's going to cause you much trouble off the tee. So I think that's what I remember probably the most is definitely, I think they've trimmed back a lot of that.
I feel kind of dopey asking this, but I think it's relevant. I mean, did you enjoy it more now with the way the trees were? Like, did you have a preference?
I truthfully cannot give a relevant, take on that, because it was just so long. And I'm more speculating more than anything. And if I've looked back at pictures of what it was in the 90s, and so that's kind of what I've referenced a little bit to my memory.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only reason I kind of know that was what happened in the renovation. But I love the way the course is laid out right now. Yeah. I would say there's nothing I would change. There's nothing that, even if it was different back then, I think they did a spectacular job with what they came out and did. And it was restored by Tom Doak, Jim Urbina, which they did a absolutely incredible job. And this is exactly what you think of Tom Doak when you think of anything he's put his hands on. Is if he's doing a renovation, he's not putting his own spin on it. He's just bringing it back with the knowledge that he creates by, if you've listened to any of his interviews or any podcasts that he's done, the research that goes into any of the renovation projects that Tom Doak does is extensive. It's ridiculous. Like, he goes through archives, finds as many pictures, many, overhead flybys, original plans, anything he possibly can get his hands on to renovate back to as much back to his original as possible, which is why when we start doing our tournaments, that's why I'm including any of his renovations as well. We're not just doing his original designs. We're going to have his renos on there because they are so special. I mean, it's incredible how good a lot of his renovations have turned out. And the reason why a lot of his courses are being used for USGA events and, so on and so forth. So Pasatiempo has held a, NCAA tournament there every single year since the renovation. So it just shows the amount of extensive work that has gone in to make this course as amazing as it is. And the minute you step onto that first tee and the starter, even if he gives you a full spiel of what Pasatiempo is, the history behind it, where Alistair's house was and things like that. It's a really special, start and welcome to the golf course. And I definitely appreciated that because he got you off on the right foot. He made sure that you had, ball markers and, everything you needed to be able to get out there and have the best time you possibly can have. And that first tee box, looking out over basically most of the front nine, and it's a spectacular view.
It's great. And I think the other thing too that I really appreciate is it's semi-private, or as Big Randy would joke, it means it's semi-public. But it was very classy, but I didn't find it stuffy at all. So for example, when Jack and I pulled in, because I know from a preference thing, like Jack is particular about his stuff. Like I just know this is where, again, I know Jack so well. Jack doesn't like people touching his stuff. Like he wants to kind of he also brought like the stretching thing. He had like bags and bags of stuff. Like Jack's not into like the full service experience, to be honest. So we parked because I knew I had my push card and Jack wanted to do his thing. And the guy like halfway came and was like, "Hey, do you guys need anything?" And we're like, "We're good." He's like, "Cool." And just like left us alone. Because I've definitely been to like some private clubs where like you're kind of gotta let him take your bag or there's a certain expectation. He asked if we need anything and then left us alone. And then everything's right there. So they had a really good kind of restaurant and bar that's right there. Practice green. We didn't hit any balls because
I did. You guys did not.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize you did. But one thing we should point out to people is I should know better. But the traffic to Santa Cruz, just budget extra time. Like, to be clear, I didn't almost miss the tee time like I usually do. But there was definitely traffic where the number was creeping up where I was like, we were going to get there. Jack and I were planning on getting like 2 hours early. I think we got there like 45 minutes early and it was getting worse. So budget extra time no matter where you're coming from because you got into the traffic too, right?
Yeah, so I budgeted, I left my house close to 4 hours ahead of time because I knew that I was going to hit traffic. I wanted enough time to get some food, hit balls, warm up and do my thing. So I left 4 hours ahead of time and I got there an hour and a half, hour and 15 before around. Like ridiculous amount of traffic. And it usually should only take me an hour 45 to get there from where I was at. So the one thing is I got there before you guys and I decided I was going to go hit some balls. And the way that they kind of squeezed in their driving range is really, really funky because you have to jump in this really old rickety van that's like a 92 Econo van. Like it is beat to hell. You throw your clubs in the back, you hop in, they drive you down this hill and around to the driving range, drop you off, and there's a phone number that you call when you need to be picked up. So it was a super weird situation where so I hit some balls and I was only down there for like 30 minutes because I wanted to have enough time to like get food and chip and putt and do all that. So I felt bad because I hit 5 balls with like 5 different clubs, warmed up a bit and called the number and they came back down and picked me up and brought me back up. And I was just like kind of weird because you basically dropped me off for like a 30-minute little warm up where I could have just like gotten a cart and driven down, but whatever. That was a really funky, weird thing about Pasatiempo. And that actually surprised me with the driving range setup that they're able to host NCAA events with the minimal amount of practice facility that they have. I was pretty blown away by that. And as you saw with the parking lot, there isn't a large parking lot at all. Like they must be shuttling people in from other places because it's crazy how they would host any event, even like a 30-person tournament at a time. So, but that was probably the only quirky, weird thing about Pasatiempo. But everything else was top notch. The people running the pro shop, to the guy pouring heavy drinks inside the bar. I mean, it was absolutely top notch. The food was great. Everything. Yeah. There's nothing I could say bad about it.
Well, that's not true because they filleted your hot dog. Like, don't pull that bullshit. Like, we said we're not going to fluff courses.
You know what though?
My burger was delicious, despite the fact that I ate way too fast and I blew up. Like, I shot 39 on the front and ended up shooting 85 because I ate the burger too fast and started getting the pulls. But you got a filleted dog, my man. You can't give them credit for that.
Like I've said in the past, they can make up for filleted dogs with some extra, like, top-notch toppings. So I was able to get cheese on that guy. You know, I had my normal relish and ketchup. So, and they had a really solid hoagie. So the cutting of the hot dog, they lost 2 points right off the bat. So you can't be higher than 8 with a cut hot dog. And you have to be an insanely well done hot dog being cut to get an 8. They were a good 6.5 because they were saved by condiments and they were saved by the bun.
Huh. That's
good 6.5.
Okay.
Not a sous vide Coos Golf Club hot dog.
Not a Palo dog.
Not a Palo dog.
Yeah. But before we got started, the other things to call out, one thing that I think I've been noticing more at places, it was true at Bandon too. I really love that these courses are not just screwing you over on prices of merch. Yes. I got a Pasatiempo visor, $22. I got my dad a Pasatiempo hat, $22. And I'm sure that, again, there's some stuff. I mean, if you're going to go like at, Bandit, if you're going to go the zero restriction route, they're going to bone you for that stuff.
And they had that. I mean, sure. They had their top notch, Nike stuff that was in the 100, 120 at, a piece.
Yeah, but I thought like the merch was very fair. And then one thing that I thought I had never actually seen before, but I thought it was super cool. So when you get to the first tee, the guy gives you a spiel, but he asks you what tees you're going to play. And they have individual scorecards for every single one of, so there was like gold, I think was the back. There was gold, white combo. There was white. And it was just really cool because you get this very, very clean scorecard that just has the numbers that you're going to play. That's it. Yep. So, I mean, a lot about Pasatiempo is classy. Like the other thing that I noticed was the rakes are basically this like unfinished wood, like very, very like the most minimalist rake I've ever seen. When I first thought, I was like, this thing is going to not do anything. And it actually does a really, really nice job on those bunkers. So again,
because the bunkers are so lush.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was thinking, it's funny. I didn't bring this up to you when we were playing, but I was thinking back to when we were on our golf trip, Terra-Lago at that volcano hole where basically you kept chipping it over the green and just screaming like, the bunker, it's like a rock. It's like, yeah, dude, we get it. Just pick it up. Let's go to the next hole. Boy, I was thinking like the juxtaposition between like Terra-Lago and there.
That's the thing. I was in a greenside bunker similar to what that volcano hole was at Terra-Lago. And as long as there's good enough sand, I have no issue with it. I was literally hitting off of like hard pan, zero sand, like
getting him mad again, turf. Getting him worked up before the trip.
Put sand in there, Terra-Lago.
But those are the little things that I think, of course, like, we're going to talk about the course and some of the stuff we loved, but, it's just really nice where it's like, again, just to run through it again, it's like a staff that like is there when you need them, but not there when you don't want them. Solid food, solid drinks, affordable. Again, you're paying $1 million to be clear, it's $325 for a greens fee. So people know,
but just to walk. It's another 25 to ride.
No, it was 40.
40 to ride. It was absurd expensive.
Yeah, it's 40 to ride. But, but again, the really nice merch rates, again, like it's just truly a wonderful experience. But you might assume, I'm not trying to drive by shoot certain places, but like, I would imagine if you go to like potentially a Pinehurst or a Kiowa, it's going to feel maybe a bit snotty, maybe not Pinehurst, but there's certain places where I could imagine you're feeling that sort of resorty vibe. it just felt like a really, really nice golf course where they didn't care if you remember or not. And they just kind of, again, they were there, needed them, and then left you alone. And that's exactly what I want.
They
whenever
thanked
I
you
go
for coming
golf.
out, which was awesome.
Yeah. And we also had some people who were clearly members who were like clearly super excited that we had come played. And that's always just nice to feel welcome. Because sometimes, you know, when I've played other places that are semi-private, it's like, hey, pay your dues and go play and then get out of here as fast as you can, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very warm, welcoming vibe. You really appreciate everything that they offer out there, and it's a minimalistic offer. And to be honest, when you go out there, you're out there for the golf course. You're not out there for the amenities. When you go out to Pebble Beach, you're out there for the golf course, but you're also out there for the full amenities. In Pinehurst, the same thing. You're out there for full amenities. Like, you want to have bars on the, you know, holes. Like, same with Bandon. Like, you want to have those hidden bars in the bunkers and like all these crazy, you know, fun things like that. You're there for one thing and one thing only: the Alistair MacKenzie track. They offer substantially good food, great prices on merch, friendly environment. It's the perfect atmosphere to have a great day out there. And when you're paying that premium, that's exactly what you want. So again, one of the best days. Getting into the course though, first hole, step up to it, very straightforward golf hole. I mean, there's nothing that's hidden in front of you. It's long. But raised tee box, so you kind of just grip it and rip it on the first one. You can miss pretty much wide right. Won't have any issues if you're going right on that hole. You might get caught up in those trees, but there's not a lot of them. It's pretty scarce over there. What really makes the first hole difficult are the green side bunkers. The green itself, I don't think it was small. It was challenging on that aspect, but the green side bunkers, from any path you hit into that green, you were hitting over bunkers. There was no way around it. If you hit it long, you're in a bunker. If you hit it short, you're in a bunker. You hit it left, right, you're in a bunker. It was insane getting up onto that hole, but that was probably one of my favorites. I would say, you kind of just lead into it. You know, number 2 was a great hole as well. What would you say on the front 9 was your favorite hole that we encountered?
Oh, man. I really liked number 3. I mean, that has got to be one of the toughest par 3s I've played. And it was really interesting because when we were playing, you could see how like I had the benefit of going third, and it made a really big difference. I believe that the number on the card didn't matter as much because we were going kind of back and forth. But the point is, we were all hitting kind of woods and hybrid. So Chris went first. He hit it kind of in to be clear, like he's saying, bunkers all the way around except for this kind of front porch in the front left area. Chris had, I believe, a 7-wood up in the front and literally goes, cool, perfect miss. And then it started to roll, and I go, dude, I don't know. It proceeds to roll 50 yards down the hill to leave him like a pretty challenging chip. Jack gets up there, hits basically the same thing with one of his driving irons. Then after y'all did it, I actually clubbed up. I had a hybrid that landed on the front of the green, rolled to the back, and then I 3-putted because of this crazy green. So that's one of those holes that I think for an average golfer, and to be clear, with that tee, because we were playing the mixed tees, we were playing 1 tee up. So I think even from 1 tee up, that hole is probably playing, a par 3.5 or almost 4 there. But I don't, I like some variety when it comes to par 3s, which they had. But I thought that after, to your point, a pretty straightforward, but, definitely long par 4 to start off, a pretty like straightforward downhill par 4. It's like, wow, you're like, this is we're on the 3rd hole and it's officially time to hit a real kind of big boy golf shot. So really, really liked that hole. Also liked 6. 6 was a long and very deceptive par 5. We couldn't tell how far we were. Like when Chris hit it, I couldn't, because there's all this like this stuff with the hill, and you can't really tell where your tee shot is. Also, we were playing again 1 tee up. That hole has got to be 60, 70 yards longer from the back tees. So that was pretty scoreable. From like I hit a pretty good drive and a hybrid that almost went over the green. That hole from the back tees is, I mean, almost certainly a 3-shot hole, and there's OB houses left, but not in an intrusive way. You're going to notice OB on Pasatiempo, but it's not very intrusive. Really interesting little green right there with, again, great bunkering, kind of the MacKenzie classic. And then, of course, number 7, which is sort of the hole that you might have seen where it looks like you have nowhere to hit it. Like it looks like this very tight alleyway where what it's asking you to do is hit a 220-yard shot perfectly straight and then hit a 120-yard shot to a green with, you guessed it, pretty deceptive bunkering on the front. I could keep going, but those are kind of the 3 holes that I really enjoyed. I know I agree with you. I think the back 9 is better and certainly more challenging, but I really like the front 9, and I think that that's the correct routing because it sort of is a way to kind of warm you up for the back 9. And I definitely think the 9s are set up properly. So those are the 3 that kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's challenges in your approach off the tee on the front, but I would say it's a lot more tame than it is on the back, because the back, you really have to pick your shots. You really have to pick where you're going to land the ball, because wherever you end up could make or break your approach coming in. Where on the front, I felt like I could scramble a little bit more. You know, you could miss your spots and you were still able to scramble to get, save par, or anything like that. So like you were saying, I would say 3 was probably outside of the first hole. I just think it's such a beautiful opening hole. I think 3 is my favorite on the front because it's that uphill, little bit of a dogleg right par 3, and it's just really difficult. Really, really difficult. I mean, I think I missed it. I missed it in the bunker right of the green.
Wait, number 3?
Yeah.
No, you flew it short and then it rolled down the apron.
That's right.
So,
all the way down.
But honestly, you might have been better to hit it in the bunker because then you had to hit a flop shot over this like gigantic bunker to a front flag. Like if I would have you, I would have rather the ball have gone in the bunker and just kind of been able to blast it out, 2-putt and make bogey. But like you kind of had to hit like a perfectly executed like flop pitch shot because again, the bunker, you were probably 30 or 40 feet below the green, right? Like it's this very dramatic looking green.
Yeah, because the majority of what I've always been taught playing golf is if you're going to miss, you're going to miss short, or you're going to miss either left or right, depending on what hazard is approaching on the greens. There's usually always a bailout. The one thing I will say about Alistair MacKenzie, green complexes, there is never a bailout. So, I'm geared to hit it short if I'm going to hit it anywhere. So that was, I think, my biggest struggle throughout the entire day was, any of my approaches that weren't, on target. If they were short, I was just heavily penalized throughout the entire day with that. Especially when we got to the back 9 and I was hitting 16. I mean, I got double penalized on that green. That was rough. But yeah, the front 9, that hole is easily my favorite. I think it ends with a very, very nice walk in the park, a short par 5, easiest hole according to the handicap. That's kind of what I really liked about the routing as well, is you got beat up a little bit. You got to experience and learn how the greens were going to play throughout the day on the front 9. It was kind of like an education. And then when you made the turn, you played the back 9, you kind of knew what you were getting into until you got to the first green. And the back 9 greens are so much more devastating than the front. The front were still puttable. They were still, easily to work. As long as you were hitting your lines, they were absolutely, scoreable. Oh man, that back nine, if you were not hitting the exact spots you needed to hit on those greens, it was an automatic 3-4 putt.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, I think there's other, like, one thing that I have found myself still thinking about was number 14, the par 5. I sort of made a mess of it up until I got to around
Oh, you're talking about 13.
13. When I got up there, I kind of made a mess of it. But then I think I was hitting my fourth shot from 120 yards. And I hit one of the most just perfect, like, you hit a golf shot where it's like you envision it in your mind, and off the club you've executed it exactly as you wanted to hit it. I think I landed that gap wedge. The ball was about 12 yards short of the pin. It rolled into the back bunker, and to your point, there was a collar. There's no collar, so it just goes straight down into the bunker. And literally, I kind of posed and looked at you, and you kind of didn't respond, and I was like, that's kind of weird. And again, but that's where I'm not trying to say it's because I didn't know, but there's certain things that we've learned playing some Alistair MacKenzie courses where it's cool, that's actually a hole where the pin may be on the back. Even if it's a gap wedge, land it on the front of the green, or else you're going to hit it in the back bunker. But then that wasn't always the case, because I know that number 10, there was number 10, the flag was all the way at the front, and it was severely sloped down there. And that one actually wasn't that severe. And I guess you could say if I had one gripe, this is, me being nitpicky, there was certainly, I didn't think the greens were necessarily consistent when it comes to speed, which at $325, I would expect them all to be about the same. So again, it sounds like me complaining. There were certainly 3 putts where it's wait a second, this is a front pin. It's down 3 tiers. I would expect to putt that ball and have it run into the fairway. And I left 2 putts short, and that one was slow. But then on number 13, you got where it's so rock hard, it actually rolls. So that was maybe a bit have not played there. Maybe the green's a little inconsistent. But to your point, there's just a really good, he allows for a ton of creativity, but there's certain ways in which MacKenzie's yeah, dude, you're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
And why do you think there was think about it? Why do you think there was a bunker behind 13 that just the green rolled straight into it? Because that's how he designed it, right? He designed it that if you don't land the shot on the front of the green, it's just going to flow out of the back bunker. And that's just cool golf architecture. You don't see a lot of,
I think that's what I was talking about when I think things have changed, because originally I'm almost positive there was collars around every green, so that would have
ruined it. That would have ruined it.
And so I'm almost positive, looking back, that's what the biggest changes are. And I think in the renovation that Tom Doak and Jim Urbina did, they brought back those flows in edges that roll, that are just kind of like a infinity green that just rolls right into these bunkers. And it devastates you, because you'll hit a shot 10 feet in front of the hole, thinking that's going to take 2 stops and hop 2 and then stop for you, and it just rolls right through the back into the bunker, and you're just like, are you freaking kidding me? And that just happens to you all day. You just have to realize there is no such thing as sticking things close on a lot of those greens. It's a lot of playing the slopes, making sure that you're hitting bump and runs, and being creative with it. Because if you're just searching for flags all day at Pasatiempo, you're going to have a rough day.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I don't know what happened on 9, because I hit it I had probably a 7-foot eagle putt that I didn't make, but it was an elevated green, so I couldn't see it. But to your point, the shot I hit closest all day, probably my best golf shot of the day, was number 8. Number 8 is a downhill par 3. The green's kind of a diagonal green, bunker in the front right, bunker in the back left. And it kind of, it tiers up. So the back is significantly higher than the front. and I hit a little draw. So I basically like aimed it in the middle of the green, hit a little draw, landed it right in the middle of the green, and it rolled up and then rolled past the flag, rolled up the back slope. And I thought it was going to be like 20 feet, and the jack like it's still rolling, came all the way back. So to your point, when I hit it to 5-6 feet, right, that was actually a situation where I landed it short of the hole, played the slope up, had the slope have it come back, and then it ultimately plays back. But to your point, if I had flown it to the flag, it would have been coming in too hot. It would have missed the tier. It would have gone in the back rough, and I would have made probably 5, because the way that I would have chipped it on would have been the front of the green. I would have had a putting disaster. But to your point, the only way to get it to 5 feet on that hole is to land it in the perfect spot like I did, have it roll past the hole, have it play the slope, and have it come back. But that's the genius of a MacKenzie course, not only because it's really fun. I'm not going to lie, I sort of did that by accident. I didn't necessarily I didn't envision that shot in my head. But the fun part of, I think, of what we love about MacKenzie courses and good golf architecture in general is because of those slopes and how they play, there's a lot of different ways to attack those holes, but it allows you to get creative and try different shots the more you play, right? It's not just middle of the green, hit at the flag, middle of the green, hit the flag. It's like, no, the only way to get it close is to use your brain and play, and then most importantly, execute, right? Because if I hit a fade instead of a draw, I'm in the left bunker, it doesn't even matter, right?
Yeah. I mean, and playing with me as much as you've played with me, being creative is probably my favorite thing about playing golf, because it's cool if you can hit it long, you can hit it, all that stuff. But when you get in trouble and you're under a tree and you're 180 yards out and you only have, about 5 feet to hit it out of this little window and you need to run it up, can you choke up on a 3-wood and punch it out and have it run up to about 10 feet? Is that in your repertoire? Or if you blow it right and it goes down this ravine and you got to open up a face on a 58 or a 60 and, flop it up to 30 feet short and have it roll in, is that in your repertoire? Those type of shots are what I dream of. It sounds crazy because everybody's like, no, I'd rather have a perfect round and hit every spot that I'm supposed to hit. But that's unrealistic. You're never going to do that in golf. If you've played enough golf, you realize that's never going to happen. So I'm in the Phil Mickelson school of golf, where I like to, hit it as far as I can and find it and, be creative with whatever I'm left with. And I think you get a lot of that when you're at Pasatiempo. It's just shots that you probably have never practiced in any practice routine you've ever done. It's something that you're probably going to experience only with round after round after round of playing it in multiple different courses, different types of scenarios, all of that. And you're still not going to be, comfortable or being able to handle it at Pasa, because the way they cut the grass, the way the undulations happen. I mean, 16 alone. We'll just say this. When you're hitting up a hill on 16, you can't really see what you're experiencing on the other side of the hill. But when you hit your ball up there and it rolls down, it could literally end up anywhere. It looks like Alistair MacKenzie designed this for warfare out there on this 16 fairway. It's got these trenches that go through this entire fairway. The fairway slopes in all different directions, kicking your ball wherever it desires, depending on where you land your tee shot. And it makes it for a extremely difficult approach to the green. And you have to hit a super solid shot to be able to have a very successful, distance to be able to approach it as well. I think I was left with a very uncomfortable 190 because I didn't hit a very good tee shot. I think Jack bombed his ball on that hole. I think he was within 90 yards of the green. It was ridiculous how far he got past all the trenches. And then you were off to the left in one of the trenches.
Yeah, well, I was off to the right, just past the cart path. But to your point,
that's right.
It was one of those where not a great lie, and I just didn't really have anything. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a hole where you have to be in the right spot off the tee to do anything with it. Yeah,
But then you ended up in a horrible approach position too.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I was on the right side of that green and chipped it on, and it sped all the way off the front, and then I think I four putted and made double or triple. It
And
wasn't
then
good.
I again hit my approach shot short. And on this green, it's got 3 gigantic tiers. I mean,
Well,
and
the thing is, like, we can't actually articulate
how
tiers
dramatic it is.
Tiers doesn't really even. I've never seen anything like this in real life.
It's like being at a auditorium or going to a movie theater and looking up 8 to 10 rows, and that's kind of the depth of how high this green went up.
That's a good analogy.
I mean, to be able to picture that in your head, and you having to putt a ball to the top of this hill and not hit it short to come back, which unfortunately that was what me and Jack did not. He hit his ball short and it rolled down there for his original approach shot. For me, I hit my approach shot short, putted it, missed it short, came all the way back down the hill to Jack's ball. Jack chips up, sticks it, really good chip, actually. I think he was like 10 feet from the pin, and I finally get it up there, chip it up there, and you're just so devastated once you're at the top of this hill looking at this pin, and if you hit it 2 feet long of this pin, you're back down the hill. So yeah, Ashton chips on from where he was off, past on the right, past the bunker, rolls down to where we were at. He had to chip up. Me and Jack both short putt because we're just scared to death to hit it past and have it rolled back down this hill. Then we mop it up, and I think all of us, I know I double bogeyed that hole. I think all 3 of us double bogeyed that hole. It was,
or Jack might have made bogey, but you and
Jack did make bogey.
You and I definitely, and honestly, I know this green's crazy. From Jack's tee shot, he shouldn't have made double bogey. Like he was
should have been easy.
He was literally in position A. But I think that's a hole where, until you've played it a couple times, I'll finish my thought. Until you play there a couple times, bogey's totally fine. Because I think one of the things I'd love to do is, if we get to make ourselves a couple cocktails and just make like a part, like just have 100-yard shots and we get to play like a 9-hole match. We just drop it at 100 yards and play it. That'd be so fun, just to be able to like drop it at different 100, like drop it 100 yards.
A Muni Madness at Pasa would be legitimately the best experience I've ever had at a golf course. Because
there's never a course that would want us to do it less, but it would be the best thing ever.
It would be the most enjoyable thing ever, because those greens are so devastating, and the fun putts that people would make in Muni Madness on those greens from like 40, 30 feet down the hill, up the hill, right to left. It would be so much fun, but you're right. It's only a dream. It's never going to occur. But Pasatiempo, if you ever listen, Muni Madness, your golf course will be there.
Chris, what I know 16 is sort of the iconic hole, but what else stuck to you out on the back nine? Because to me, I like
18.
The front nine more than you, but I want to hear what else stuck out to you back there.
So what really makes me love the back nine is the barranca that runs through the entire course on the back nine. So you're right when you get to 10, you're hitting directly over the barranca.
Right, Chris, for the people at home who don't know, what's barranca?
So a barranca is a smaller canyon. That's kind of just an easier way to describe it. It's a canyon, but a barranca is a smaller canyon, so it's not as deep. And it's usually full of vegetation. But so a barranca, it kind of flows through the entire back nine, kind of weaves in and out. So on the first hole, you're having to clear the entire barranca hitting into the fairway. On 11, you're dealing with it on your approach shot, and then you definitely deal with it on a few more holes. It's just a very intriguing way to weave holes in and out using the natural landscape to make it more challenging without taking excavation tools and tractors and man making these type of things. It's just a completely amazing way of utilizing the landscape to create such an epic golf course, because I mean, this was built in the 20s. So they didn't have all of the equipment that modern, golf course architects have. So the way the course is designed and laid out with all the bridges that go across the barrancas, it's crazy. And it's mind-blowing that this was created in the 20s and the actual layout of the golf course has not changed. That's baffling to me, because I mean, to be able to upkeep that place, I couldn't even imagine with the mowers and things that they had up to the 80s, to upkeep that golf course and have it be one of the top, notch golf courses in the world and designed by Alice. It's head scratching to say the least on how that course is still in existence in the pristine, aspect of it. And of course, it got renovated by Tom Doak, Jim Urbina. But it's definitely a mind-blowing experience on the back nine.
But you're talking about 18. You started talking about Branca, but you're talking about 18.
18 is any golf course that ends on a par 3 has my heart. I think it's one of the coolest ways to end around. It's not every golf course. 80% of golf courses end their rounds with a par 5. They usually, it's a scoreable par 5 and it's wide open, and it's just kind of the template that I would say that I see at the most that I see most at golf courses, and it kind of feels overplayed when you go and play a course like this that has a par 3 at the end that's very approachable. It's not deep. I mean, from the tips, it's 143 yards. So it's not unobtainable, but the green is diabolical. If you miss it short, again, brings you all the way down to this kind of catch basin. Multiple tiers and layers throughout the green. Depending on where they have the flag placed that day, it can be a little bit easier or harder. If they have it top left, it can be a little bit easier. You can miss it a little bit more. There's some rough up there that'll catch you. Where they had it placed for us, it was in this bottom shelf that had the flag at the bottom of the shelf. And you either had to hit it long and have a little spin on it and come back, and hopefully it didn't come all the way down into the catch basin.
Wait, are you talking 18?
Yeah, it wasn't 18.
18, the flag was all the way in the back.
It was okay.
No,
my apologies.
No, it's fine. But 18 was brutal because that's where they had it for the collegiate tournament. Because if you hit it long at all, you're in the back bunker and you are fucking dead.
Yeah, because you have to come down from it.
But what those guys all did is
I don't have a picture of the course.
No, it's all right. That's why I'm here. As Mr. Banks said, I'm the third grade teacher who kind of keeps everything on the rails. No, but what those guys kept doing is they kept hitting like shots to the middle of the green. It would suck back, and they'd have a 40-foot putt up the hill. But the flag was actually all the way in the back, which made it so brutal, And it was super quick.
So my take is absolutely dog shit. So don't listen to my take. But so anyways, on that hole, I know what I did.
You hit it short.
I hit it short in the basin, chipped it up, but then it came back down to the bottom tier, and then I had to put it all the way up to the top left tier.
Yes.
And I think I bogeyed on that hole, which I got a miraculous 2-putt coming up that, which was wonderful with the situation that I was given off the tee.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Chris. Like, I totally agree with a course that has a par 3 does have my heart. But at the same time, to me, it better be good. Like, if
Yes.
you really want, like, it takes some cojones to do that. Again, I wish golf courses did it more, but it's sort of like a weird flex. But it's like, if you're gonna do it right. And I think Pasatiempo, it's a great way to finish.
It's how it needed to be.
Totally.
And so that's what I would say. I would love to see more courses with like 290-yard par 4s and like, short par 3s, but with green complexes that challenge you to end. Things like that would be much more enjoyable to see on a lot of courses. And that's, I think, what I really loved about Pasa was that last hole. Really, it's difficult. It's very difficult, but it's also one of the most rewarding holes if you hit it correctly.
Yeah. No, 18 was awesome. I also want to call out, I sincerely think one of the toughest holes I've played in the last year. Number 11 is diabolical. I
You
have
did
thought,
not have a good go about that hole.
no, I mean, the one place so there's hazard left, OB right, and I hit a pull hook into the OB. But then the hard part is, you want to be as close, you want to hit it as far as you don't. The fairway runs out at like 280.
You want to be at about 250, but as close to the left, close to the barranca on the left as you can.
Right. So yeah, and then the green is dramatically uphill. It's got not just bunker, but in front of the bunker is red stake hazard in front of it. And then the green itself, like the pin was all the way in the back on this really tough thing where Jack hit this great approach shot, but it got caught in the rough. And you were like, you're kind of giggling. You're like, dude, if it had come back down an inch, it would have been 3 feet, but instead you're going to chip it on in 3-putt. So I think that like 11 was not only the toughest hole out there, but I think one of the toughest holes I've played because yeah, you have options, but I was not joking with you. I think the move is you just try to, for me, I would just hit like as my dad calls, like a 3-finger driver. And if I shove it a little bit, I just drop it where it went in and so be it. But again, I hit it OB, so it didn't matter, but I decided to play my 230-yard club. And then I dropped where I went in. I was like, I have like 240 yards in to an uphill green, just bone zone. So 11 is definitely a hole where it's like, I don't know. I just, whenever I hear someone play possum, my first question is going to be, tell me how you play at 11. Like, I just want to hear from different people how they play it.
I played 3-wood
to a par 4.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that was the right play? Like, is that how you would play that again?
Yeah. I mean, I probably should have hit a 5-wood on the second shot. A little bit higher, let it sit a little bit softer. But, I gave it a soft 3-wood and I hit it a little right.
But the point is, you're still hitting 2 large clubs.
Yeah. I mean,
very protected, very tough, undulating green. And also forget,
too, it did not fly anywhere.
No, because also with you, I'd forgotten this. That's the hole where you were on the bottom of the tier of the green. The flag is at the top. You smacked it, and the ball came back to your feet. So it's also a like totally like green that's like fuck you when you get up there. And again, if under 230-yard approach shot, you hit it short of the bunker, you're in red stake hazard, have to drop and hit a 120-yard shot again. So I mean, it's truly a hole where I think that like you could make a 10 so easily on that hole.
Yeah, like I usually hit my 3-wood 245, 250, and I was hitting that thing 220 into the wind on that hole. Yeah. I mean, I was losing a good 30 yards on that club. It was
and that's really where I think on that day you just hit driver and you tell yourself you're going to miss it left if you miss it, and then just drop it and try to make 5 or at worst double. But yeah, just such a hard hole, such a cool hole. And to your point, uses the barranca. The barranca's in play on the tee shot. It's in play on the approach shot. where Jack was, if he, had not a great chip, it could have been in play around the green. I mean, just such a cool, super challenging hole.
I think both of us, the only gripe we would have on anything in the entire course, I think the only thing we would say is hole 17 is the most basic bitch hole I've ever played.
Yeah, it's not only that I don't think it's a great hole. It's also that I've heard from people I trust, like you said, it's one of their signature holes. I don't understand that. It's just, there's nothing to it. There's nothing to it.
No, there really isn't. I mean, from the tips, it's 372. And there's no bunkers in play. It doesn't even look like an Alistair MacKenzie hole.
No.
It's just
so you guys know, so the left side of the fairway is higher than the right. Everything feeds down to the right. And then you have a slightly elevated green with no bunkers. And it's just like a very vanilla hole.
Yeah. And I would say that's why I loved 18 so much, because you were like, all right, 16 was such a kick in the dick and so interesting, so diabolical. Then you go to 17, you're just like, okay. And then you go to 18, you're like, all right, there it is again. And you get that little taste right before you walk off.
Yeah.
But all in all, Pasatiempo was absolutely just a day. It was so good.
And I think that's a good point, Chris, is like, I think that like the way we did it, again, traffic and stuff notwithstanding, I think it's a really great way to pick 3 people who are really special to you, plan it a year in advance. I mean, you don't have to book it a year in advance, but kind of pick your day, try to do it. Because the one thing to call out is the first 3 holes, like we still noticed, like we had been, over a month past punching. We noticed that, I wouldn't say it ruined our experience by any means. We noticed punching. So just try to pick a day, like pay attention when they're punching, try to do 2 months after punching.
Yes.
Pick 3 people who you really care about and just pay the price. Don't think about it, because
if you're going to go in July, go in August before they punch again in September, or end of October is when they punch, right around that time. Or I mean, beginning of October, end of September. So plan ahead of time. Best weather you're going to experience, especially because you are on the coast. Like, even though you're in the mountains, the coastal weather does come up to Pasa, and you will experience some of it. I mean, you will have higher temperatures up there than you will on the coast, but July, August, September, if I'm going to tell anybody to play out there, because the prices don't change year round.
No
matter when you go out there, unless they just punched and sanded, that's the only time you get a cheaper rate to go out and play it. But it's the same $325 year round, no matter when you book a tee time. So make sure
it's great.
Yeah. And the weather, again, is great year round out there. I mean, it's California weather.
We had like 70 with a little breeze. I mean, we actually had a perfect weather day.
Yes. I mean, the wind picked up a little bit on the back 9, but other than that, it was perfect weather out there. We couldn't have asked for a better experience.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. That's our recap of Pasa. If anybody, again, is in, South Bay, Santa Cruz, that area, it is a must play. I would even say if you're traveling to that area to play golf and you're planning on going to Monterey, I would skip one of your expensive rounds in Monterey and I would replace it with Pasatiempo if you didn't already have that on your list, because it's better than every golf course in Monterey. I'm going to absolutely say that right now. Anybody can fight me about that. It is better than every golf course that public can play in Monterey. So if you're going that route, if you're flying into San Jose or SFO and you're driving to Monterey, if you're not flying directly into Monterey, play Pasatiempo on your way down. Thank us later. It's absolutely a blast.
Again, there's nothing like being able to experience a MacKenzie that's playing like a MacKenzie. You don't have to squint. You don't have to guess. You don't have to wonder. it's a truly magical experience. And to your point, if you fly into SFO, if you take the scenic route, it's an extra 25, 30 minutes. You go through Santa Cruz on your way to Monterey. So just add it onto the list, bail in one of your other rounds. You know, again, I've never played Spanish Bay. I've never played Spyglass. I'm not trying to, I know those are lovely courses, but, you know, save one of those for next time and play Pasa, because to be able to play a little bit of Monterey and then also get an Alistair MacKenzie, you're really going to enjoy it.
Yep. Next week, we're going to be showcasing some golf that I am experiencing. Ashton's taking a little bit of a hiatus. He's going to go see some professionals for his swing, but not play a little bit, take it easy. But I'll have about 5 courses to showcase by the time we talk again next Monday. So I'm excited for that. Everybody, thank you again for tuning in. Peace.
Peace.